traveling to the airport and doing some pretty crazy things. So glad you made it out this evening. Tonight, as you can see, I've got a little different flavor, I guess, than John Miller and the way he formats his agenda and how he does his things. So this is the way that we're going to do it this evening. We've got Miller here. He's going to give a little bit of instruction. But before we get to that, just got a couple of questions. Does anybody in here, I mean, I'm sure everybody in here knows a CS major, but does anybody in here have any experience with WordPress or any content management website stuff? I know it's a shot in the dark. Patrick, I know you said you've got a little bit of experience. Well, if you know anybody that does, or if you can ask around anybody who has experience with specifically WordPress as a content management system, please get them in contact with me.
What is WordPress?
It's, here, I can actually show you. So WordPress is basically a platform for supporting supporting the blogosphere, but the idea is you can use it to create your own website. So it's not necessarily a blog format. So anybody who's got basic CS or has done web design before should be pretty well versed in what WordPress is and using it as a solution. There's alternatives out there like Joomla, and I know this sounds like a foreign language because it is a foreign language. But if you know anybody who's got that sort of experience, please get in contact with me, because I know a little bit, but not enough to launch something to the scale that we're trying to do. Anyhow, so before Miller gets started, I like to assign a few roles. So we have something more standard. I know the last couple of meetings have been sort of ad hoc in the sense that, you're getting feedback, but it's not standard. You don't know your time, you don't know the number of solecisms or fillers that you're using. So if I could, tonight, we have our cinematographer, Ivy's volunteer. The camera's taller than Ivy, so hopefully we'll get a nice angle on shooting. But if I can get a timer, basic duties, Megumi, great. A filler counter, somebody to count the uhs and ohs. Trios, okay, great. Cinematographer, and somebody who'd like to be a lead evaluator. Cody?
Yeah.
Okay, so you basically, excuse me, when you get to the impromptu section, you'd be the first person to give your thoughts, your opinions, criticisms, and then that'd be bolstered by the rest of the body speaking up. And with that, Miller, if you'd like to get started,
let's talk about what the video is going to do before we begin it. Notice the 5 things listed. This is video, and we need to stick in there for the full 5 minutes, but it illustrates the use of gestures incredibly. I want you to watch the video and see that the speaker never quits gesturing. He emphasizes every word he says. He emphasizes it with a gesture. He also combines facial expression and tone. Remember how we talked how those two go together to convey emotion? He does that. He'll use a facial expression, he'll change his tone. And he almost always puts the two together. And then number 3, he has dramatic pauses. And I want you to notice this. There are a couple of places where it looks like he wants, with every fiber of his being, to say, or but he pauses. He turns it to a dramatic pause. And I'm going to point that out when he does that. And he does body movement. And this is most unusual because he's sitting down. He shows you can use good body movement. You don't have to be standing up to use good body movement. You can use it sitting down. And he has he essentially has no verbal distractions. He does a couple of ers. See if you can pick up on him. But I'm going to be the disembodied voice of God and stand in the back and make comments as the speaker speaks. Okay, roll on.
There's a couple of thoughts. One that's sort of deeply cosmic and another one that is fascinatingly disturbing, I think.
Pauses.
You'll be the judge of this.
Notice how he pauses.
Consider a couple of fundamental facts that has been gleaned in the past 60 years. That the ingredients, if you had asked your chemistry teacher 50 years ago, once you looked at that mysterious chart of boxes that sat in front of your class,
Facial expression and tone together.
where do those elements come from?
Pause.
The chemistry teacher would actually not have an answer for you. They'll say, well, you dig them out of the earth. That's not where they come from.
Pause.
It took modern astrophysics to determine the origin of the chemical elements. We observe stars. We know what goes on in their center. They explode, laying bare their contents. What we have discovered is that the elements of the periodic table, that which we are made of,
Constant gesturing.
derive from the actions of stars that have manufactured the elements, exploded, scattered their enriched guts across the galaxy,
Gestures.
contaminating and enriching gas clouds
Gestures.
that then form a next
Gestures.
generation of stars populated by planets
Gestures.
and possibly life.
Look at the planets going around the sun.
And so, when you look at the ingredients of the universe, the number one ingredient is hydrogen.
Pause.
Next is helium.
Pause.
Next is carbon. Sorry. Hydrogen, helium, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen. Those are the top ingredients in the universe. They say, well, okay, that's kind of cool. Well, and you look at Earth, because we like thinking of ourselves as special. We say,
Facial
oh, we're
expression and
special.
tone together.
Well, what are we made of? Well, what's the number one sort of molecule in the body? It's water. It's water. Well, what's water made of? H2O. Hydrogen and oxygen.
H2O. Drew it.
Hydrogen and oxygen. In fact, if you rank the elements in the human body, with the exception of helium, which is chemically inert,
But
useless to you for any reason other than just to inhale it and sound like Mickey Mouse, you can't die from helium unless that's all you breathe.
He did
number
say
one in the
no
human body
there.
is hydrogen.
Notice?
Matches the universe. Number two is oxygen. Matches the universe. Number three, carbon. Matches the universe. Number
Notice
four,
you're using
nitrogen.
repetition.
Matches the universe. And for each of us, the fifth element, other, is the same in both places. Okay? Other.
Pauses.
So,
Pauses.
we learned in the last 50 years
And that one may have been a cover-up.
that, of course, not only do we exist in this universe, it is the universe itself that exists within us.
Good tone and serious facial
And had we
expression.
been made of some rare isotope of bismuth,
Facial
you'd
expression.
have arguments saying we're something special.
Tone and facial
There are
expression.
people who are upset by that fact, saying, well, will that mean we're not special? Well, I think it's special in another kind of way. Because when you look up at the night sky,
Gestures.
it's not that
Dramatic
we're here and
gestures.
that's there.
Outside the
It's
profile
that
of his
we are
body.
part of that.
Dramatic gesture.
And that association, for me, is actually quite enlightening and ennobling and enriching. In fact, it's almost spiritual. Looking up at the night sky
Parallel
and finding a
structure
sense of
there.
belonging, given what we've learned about the night sky.
Tone and facial expression
And
together
so-
again.
So now we have ourselves. Now, are we alone in the universe?
Pause.
We're made of the
Dramatic.
most common ingredients there are.
Facial expression and
And our
tone.
chemistry is based on carbon.
Gesture.
Carbon is the most
Gesture.
chemically active ingredient in the entire periodic table.
Pause.
If you were to find a chemistry on which to base something really complex called life, you would base it on carbon.
Pause.
Carbon is like the fourth most abundant ingredient in the universe.
Facial expression and tone.
You can make more molecules out of carbon than you can all other kinds of molecules
Dramatic gesture.
combined.
Dramatic gesture. Outside the frame of his body.
If we ask ourselves, are we alone in the universe? It would be, in spite of my diatribe about UFOs, I tell you in the same breath that it would be inexcusably egocentric to suggest that we are alone in the cosmos. The chemistry is too rich to declare that. The universe, too vast. There are more
Pause.
stars in the universe than grains of sand in all the beaches of the world.
Pause.
There are more stars in the universe than all the sounds and words ever uttered by all humans who have ever lived.
Pause.
To say we're alone in the universe. No, we haven't found life outside of Earth yet. We're looking, haven't looked very far yet.
Tone and facial expression.
Galaxy's this big, we looked about that far.
Subtle gesture inside the
look-
frame of his body.
And how about life on Earth?
Pause.
Is it hard to form? Just because we don't know how to do it in the lab doesn't mean nature had problems.
Facial expression and
So
tone.
it may be, given that information, that given the right ingredients, which are everywhere,
Facial
life
expression
may be
tone.
inevitable, an inevitable consequence of complex chemistry.
Pause. What do you think, gang? How did he do?
Pretty impressive.
I hope you